We need something, yeah, so everything can be seen. Can you all see the screen?
Can everybody see? Can everybody hear? Yes. You're scattered around. Can we?
We could,
Get you all over here.
there's some Baptist seats right here.
No, we're good.
Yeah, but if I face this way, can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a live room.
Good.
Good acoustics.
Okay.
We also speak clearly.
Clearly and distinctly. I think I know everybody. If you don't know us, I'm Tony Nettles, and this is Neil Ward. We're members of the search committee, and we're going to do our very best to present a concise summary of what we've learned about the survey that we did with Holy Cow. And we really want to thank everybody in the parish. We had 148% of our average Sunday attendance respond to our survey. So that gives us really, really good statistics. When we looked at other churches, most of them are having 30–40% response. So we did really great. Cindy Gutowski was a rock star getting this done. She worked really hard on that. At any rate, first of all of this information is on the website. If you go to our website and go to Rector Search, you will find the executive summary, which is a one-page document that gives you a really bare bones summary of what's happening, of what we found out. There's an 8-page summary that some of us on the vestry and the search committee put together, which is a little more fleshed out summary of the report. There is the Vital Signs, which is a book, and that's everything in here, everything that we're going to talk about today. There's a transition report, what we need to do in the transition, and there's also a piece on the online part of the summary. We did a separate summary for the online worship, and that was a really interesting piece as well. So at any rate, what you need to know, before we even could look at this information, we had to read a 180-something page document just to get us up to speed as to what the material was going to mean and how to interpret it. It was, at any rate, then we had a 3-hour Zoom call talking about this stuff. So trying to get it all down into 25 or 35 minutes is going to be rather challenging. So we're not going to be able to give you absolutely all the information. We're going to give you an overview of what we learned.
3-hour Zoom call with a brilliant consultant. She blew me away. She's really good in this field.
She's the one that created this stuff. And she's a numbers person, and she knows how to ask questions to get the kind of information that she needs to know. And we were wondering if she'd been stalking us, that she, just from the answers to the questions, she knew what that meant to our community. So it's really some astonishing stuff.
But she was more than a numbers person. She's more than an accountant or a statistician. That lady knows organizations.
Yes.
Organizational psychology, organizational sociology, how organizations work together, and she was able to put all that together for us, I thought.
Yeah, she was really amazing, really amazing. At any rate, this survey is going to give the search committee really good parameters as to what kind of gifts and talents we need in this parish to help us move forward. It's also going to be extremely helpful for rectors, for priests who are looking at churches to see who we are and whether they feel they have the gifts and talents that we need. So I think we're so far and away ahead of where we were on the last search that we did, and we've got some really concrete information.
Tony, could I comment on the last search? And since I chaired it, I can say this, okay? We didn't do nearly as well in our response rate on the survey And I think that probably weakened the search. And again, I can say that because
Well, I don't even know about the information that you gathered from that search, if that was as helpful. I don't know about anybody else. I remember the questions on that were, I mean, they were really difficult to answer, and so I don't know. It's been a while back since I took it,
Right.
but I think this survey was just really, really useful, practical stuff. So, okay, Neil, you're next. And do you know?
We just want to make sure that everybody understands that this was a data-driven event. And the questions that are out there are not about personality, and they're not about individual personalities. It's about the body of the church and this group of people. And so the way the questions are asked, the responses that came back were astounding to all of us. And you know, as Tony said, we felt like they knew exactly who we were by the questions and how they were answered by everybody. So it was an amazing process. So therefore now we get a chance to show this to you. So here we go. We talk about why we do what we do and the way we do it. And we all go through the report together at one time, and we benchmark and we make sure that we see what we see and make sure that it's consciously absorbed by all of us. So we have to listen empathetically, and even if it's data driven, we have to understand that everybody here, none of us are AI. So we have to make sure that that we listen to everybody and talk about their hopes and their fears and their understandings and make sure that we understand it as well. Now, we know the data, but we don't know the story. And so that's one of the things that we all have a benefit of working with ourselves. We never want to sell ourselves short as a parish. We don't want to go with second best. We want to go, it's a marriage between the priest and us as a congregation. And we have to be in the best lockstep we can be to make sure that we are happy with the results. Okay, you want to?
It's yours.
Okay. Now, what every church wants, a ready church, a congregation that can follow the leadership of the clergy without being sidetracked by conflict and controversy. That's a huge, huge thing. And the right clergy, a clergy person who is a good fit for who they are and where they want to go. Just what I said, it's a marriage. And then a running start, a beginning with a new clergy person with few surprises on either side of the fence. So, the successful...
That was mine.
Okay, go ahead.
We're doing this as a tag team, and we've done it preparation via email. So this is, we're learning as we go. Okay. A ready church. That's what we're doing now, is we're getting ready for this process. And I think the biggest thing for us to understand is this is not a passive exercise. We as a parish are getting ready, and there are things that we're going to need to do in order to get ready for a new rector to come in. And so it's again, not passive. Then we need a search plan. That's what we're going to be working on, and we're getting very close to actually starting that. So we can find the right person, the right fit for us. And then we need a startup plan. And I think that's a crucial piece. And I think that's one of the difficulties we had the last time, because there was only like 1 week before COVID hit us. And so there wasn't a whole lot of support and easing into and working together. With a vestry, we never had a lock-in or a retreat or anything so that we could form a team. And that's the kind of stuff that's going to need to happen once we get a new rector. It's not, oh, we've got a new rector now, we don't have to take on all these leadership roles anymore. We're the leaders too. And that's one of the things we'll learn. We are very clergy-centric in this parish, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We're more than a church that just needs to be loved. I'm sorry, that's a grammatical thing that I think the North people use. It just needs to be loved. You're a church that needs to be living, engaged disciples. Okay, this is the key indicators of satisfaction. And we're going to look at satisfaction and, oh, I've lost my page. That's the wrong thing. We're going to look at satisfaction and energy. And these are two lockstep pieces for us. Satisfaction, if you ask somebody, what do you like about your car? You're probably going to say, oh, I like the color of it, or I like that it's comfortable, or I like that when I do this, it does that. You're probably not going to say, oh, I really like the exhaust system, or I really like the overhead cams, unless you're just a car person or whatever. These are the things that we look for to tell us where satisfaction lies. And this is how we responded to things. On a whole, I'm satisfied with things in our church. 36% said they are. 55% are on the fence. That's a lot of people who are waiting to find out. We're not real sure whether we're satisfied with the way things are going right now or not. Overall energy, it seems to me that we're just going through the motions of church activity. There isn't much excitement. This is a negatively based frame, thank you, question. At any rate, only 11% agree with that. But 51% are on the fence. This is telling us again that we're just not real sure what's going to happen next. We're going to wait and see where we're going to go with that. Now, our attendance trend, compared with 3 years ago, we've got 26% who are attending less than they did 3 years ago. 52% are the same, and 21% are attending more, which I think is kind of amazing. When I look out in the parish on Sunday morning, I don't see that. But anyway, value of activity beyond worship. On the whole, participation in church activities is very meaningful for me. We've got 54% of people who agree with that. We also have 39% who are on the fence again. I don't really know whether I want to take part in anything besides Sunday worship. Value of activity. The top three priorities. So the top three things that we use to say whether we're satisfied with the way things are going in the church. And that is make necessary changes to attract families with children and youth to our church. I want to talk about that in a little bit, because that's a big piece, and I don't know that we know what that means. I mean, we've got Cindy Gutowski back there working with the kids. I don't see anybody else putting forth any energy to want to do that. If you're going to bring in families, you need to have people that are going to work with families. You're going to bring in kids, you're going to have noisy worship. You're going to have noise in here on Wednesday nights. A lot of that kind of stuff. The second one, develop and implement a comprehensive strategy to reach new people and incorporate them into the life of the church. Again, these are usually the top two in almost any church that you go to that they're looking for. And then this third one is work to renew and revitalize the community around the church by building coalitions with partners that share this vision and commitment. She said this is very unusual for a church to have this as a top priority. So it'll be an interesting thing to see where we want to go. It is, for under 35, it's a big thing. But for us as a whole parish, because our under 35 numbers are low.
Tony, a quick comment on that one if I could.
Okay, sure.
Want to give credit to Tom Taney.
I'm sorry?
Tom Taney, Father Tom.
Uh-huh.
He was in this community. He was well known in this community. People knew him and liked him in this community, and he was here for 15 years. And then we hired a new rector. COVID hit. She wasn't able. One of my regrets was that, because I wanted to take her to Rotary, I wanted to take her around to establish ties. I was able to get her tied in with the Father Reverend Delph at First Presbyterian Church. but that was about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a factor. You know.
I think that, and that's a thing, kind of piece to remember, that these are things that we really need to do on that front end. So with satisfaction, these are the things you'll feel: the feeling of peace, fulfillment and wholeness, belonging, meaningful relationships, and absence of discord. And energy is a compelling sense of purpose, force of engagement, and passion with intention. With intention, that's an important piece of that. Okay, here are the key factors for satisfaction. On the whole, I'm satisfied. I just went backwards, didn't I? I clicked the one. Okay. Pardon me, I'm pushing the wrong way. I'm looking for.
Here.
Okay. Is that the next one? Okay.
Yeah, that's the next one. Should be mine.
These are the 3 top priorities for us. Growth to make necessary changes. This is exactly what we just talked about. These are the things that drive these are the things that drive our satisfaction. When members are asked how they feel about the church overall, they generally don't think about, this is what I was talking about with the car. You don't think about everything, you think about this. Do certain things. Every congregation is unique, and these are the things that drive us. These are the most important things for us. Leaders of our church show a genuine concern to know what people are thinking when decisions need to be made. And we score high on that. What they do is compare us to other churches that they've surveyed, about 2,800 other parishes. So when you see these high, low, moderate, that's what they're referring to. It's not whether we scored high on it, it's how we score in relation to other parishes. Okay, so we score pretty high from other parishes on what we think about the leadership. The spirit of our congregation makes people want to get involved as possible. We scored high on that compared to other parishes. Persons who serve as leaders in our church are representative of the membership. There again, we scored high on that. Our church provides opportunities for education, formation in a variety of ways so that I can find one that fits my busy lifestyle. High on that again. And then the 5th one is an important decision. In important decisions in our church, adequate opportunity for consideration of different approaches is usually provided. We score moderate on that. So when people don't see us listening that much. The drivers of energy, the pattern of responses from your members suggest that when members think about the level of excitement in your church overall, they tend to focus in the ways below. These are things that drive energy for us. Being a part of the church community has given new meaning to my life. High score on that compared to other churches. The whole spirit in our congregation makes people want to get as involved as possible. That's a moderate response. The leaders of our church show a genuine concern to know what people are thinking when decisions are made. Again, moderate. Our church does a good job helping each member understand that he or she is called to ministry. Again, moderate. Our church provides opportunities for education and formation in a variety of ways so I can find one that fits my complex lifestyle. Moderate. These are the things that give us energy. Oh dear, that slide doesn't have our little dot.
We can figure that out.
Huh?
We can figure that out.
Well, I know it.
Would you like to take a break?
We are about here. We're in the chaos, but we're kind of down towards the crossbars there, so we're not completely in chaos. Chaos is high energy, low satisfaction. And what happens then is that we've got a lot of foci, energy here and energy there and energy, but there's no concerted focus. We're not working together on stuff. So it was then kind of a chaotic thing. We want to get towards this transformational, which is high energy and high satisfaction. And we're kind of over that way, but we're still in this chaos quadrant. So we need to be aware of that. We're not down here in the reinvention and recovery, which is low energy and low satisfaction. Those are people, the parishes that are just not working at all. And the static, which is a low energy, high satisfaction. So those people are happy where they are. They don't want to go anywhere, but they're happy where they are. Okay? Oh, there it is. I didn't know how this was set up. These are ways in which we can increase satisfaction. And where the stars are, those are things that are connected to one another. And this is on a scale of 1 to 10 sort of thing, where this is low and this is high. Excuse me. Leaders seek input. That's important to us. We need to know as leaders in the parish that we need to find out what people want, what they're thinking and what they're wanting to do. We're not going to be making decisions in a vacuum. We want a spirit of involvement, different decision approaches, not always the same way reaching the same decision. Worship. We welcome worship changes. And that's kind of going to be interesting as we get further into this, that we really welcome worship changes. Change worship to reach others, about 50%. New meaning to life, that gives us energy. Leaders representative, that means leaders that are representative of the congregation as a whole. Programs for lifestyle, and disturbing conflict in music and as excellent. Those are things that give a little bit less energy. And I think, yes, that's yours.
All right.
I think that's yours.
Okay. So where do we want to go from here? We have overall priorities. So you can see on the first question, it says make necessary changes to attract families and children and youth to our church. It was an average. Second was develop and implement a comprehensive strategy to reach new people and incorporate them into the life of the church. Again, average. The third one, work to renew and revitalize the community around the church by building coalitions with partners. That was very high. Develop the spiritual generosity of the people to financially support the ministry of the church. Again, high. Strengthen the process by which members are called and equipped for ministry and leadership. Average. Create more opportunities for people to form meaningful relationships, for example, small groups, nurtured friendships, shared meals, etc. That was also average. Provide more opportunities for Christian education and spiritual formation at every age and stage of life. I'm kind of surprised that was low. Develop ministries that work toward healing those broken by life circumstances. That was also low. Strengthen the pastoral response of the church in serving people in times of need. High. Strengthen the management and support of persons with various ministries. Average. Work as an advocate for social and institutional change so that the society might better reflect the values of the kingdom of God. That was also average. Expand church ministries that provide direct services to those living on the margins of society. Low. Deepen our sense of connection to God and one another through stronger worship services. Average. Adapt the opportunity provided by the church, making them more accessible given the pace and schedule of my life. Average. Enlarge or improve the physical facilities of the church to expand or enhance our ministries. Average. Change or improve the music of the church to deepen our worship experience. Average. And expand the international mission of the church with both financial resources and personal involvement. Again, average.
One thing on this, she told us that anything 3 or above were things that we needed to work on. You're not done yet.
Okay, I'm sitting on this side.
I just wanted to throw that one in.
Yeah, no worries.
So that if you see down there at 3, it's number the 9th one, strengthen pastoral response of the church to serving people in times of need. Anything above that are things that we need to be paying attention to.
So, Right.
I was just saying, I don't think we need to do a whole
No,
lot with
no.
this. This is by age group, and if you see the stars, those are connected so that there's across all age groups that they're important. We only have 2% up there for under 35, but there's a very small number of our parishioners that are under 35. So that kind of skews it for us. But anyway, that's just the very top ones. Do we need to go through all of those for you?
You realize we can't read any.
I know.
That's why we're trying to read it
I
for
know.
you.
It's hard to read even when we were on the Zoom call. It was hard to read them.
It was.
If you want us to read them, this is a lot of. Is it?
I think a lot of our priorities ended up matching, all 3 stars in each of those categories
Right.
of age group. That's the most important thing. So we value everybody in every age group, and we all seem to have a lot of the same priorities.
And is this available on the website, that
Yes.
particular page?
This is all on the website.
You'll be able to see it much more clearly.
Yeah. In this, the vital signs report
Okay,
has all of these charts in it.
okay.
So that it's basically the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is also on the website. So if you just want to see the PowerPoint, although I will tell you the PowerPoint takes this stuff and squishes it out like this, so it's really hard to read these charts. So it's easier to read the charts in the vital signs. And this is top priorities by how often people attend. And it just takes those priorities that we talked about before and shows you which age groups are, now here, how often you attend, where the importance is for those people.
So what's the 19%? Go back a minute, please.
I'm sorry?
Go back a minute, Tony. What's the 19%?
That's the top priorities for infrequent attenders, once per month or less. The one under here is frequent attenders more than once a month. So it's make necessary changes to attract families with children and youth. It's the same thing. Develop and implement comprehensive strategies to reach people outside the church.
So is the 19% saying that's the percentage of the infrequent?
That was the percentage of the people that responded.
Tony, a question that comes to my mind, these are good numbers, is we've got 19% of our people who are attending once a month or less, and yet we want to reach out and we want to grow. Where do we want to address our first efforts? Do we want to address our first efforts at people who already know us, who are attending once per month or less, or do we want to try to get totally outside the church community and try to grow there? And that's a decision that we.
That's a good question. We had an email link about that.
Yeah.
Back, I don't know how long you've been in this diocese. It was in the 90s, and I think it was Rogers Harris that did this thing on bringing in the lapsed. Were you here then? At any rate, he was bringing, the whole diocese, this was going to be our focus, was bringing back lapsed members. And the only piece I remember about the training was that there's always a cluster of reasons why people leave the church, not just one reason. And we worked on that for several years. And I think we finally gave it up because we're not getting the kind of success for the energy we're putting into it. So I don't know, it may not be true today, I'm just telling you what we did back then.
Do we have a way of knowing how many people watch our services online?
We have an online worship module,
Right.
and yes, we do have those statistics. We asked that question on the survey.
YouTube does count how many watched it that day. You can see a number.
But it's not.
Oh, well.
Right. What's interesting to me,
Pop in and pop out, and they're counted. Yes.
what was that?
People do pop in and pop out. Oh, that's not the one I want, but they're counted. So it's,
Yeah, it's
It's a
really
little
interesting
skewed.
because the numbers here were not very high. I think there were like 30 people that watched several times a year. But when you go to the YouTube videos, you'll see 40, 50, 60 views. Now, some of those are gonna be people that just pop out in and out, but some of those may be people who live out of state, they may be people who are homesick or are traveling or whatever, there's a lot of those. But as far as your question, yes, we did do the survey. We're not gonna go into detail on this survey today, but I seem to recall, I had a number in here somewhere that said what percentage of people wanted us to continue.
Yeah.
And I can't find it right now, I'll get to it in a minute, but there was a pretty high percentage of people who wanted us to continue the online piece.
Maybe my question was premature. Maybe we need to look at all the numbers first before we start asking questions that Felix is asking. So sorry if I
That's okay.
moved this forward too fast.
This is just bubbles. If it was more important to people, it's a bigger bubble. If it's less important, it's a smaller bubble. And the reason that they're so big on the under 35 is because there's so few of them that it made, like if you've got 10 people under 35 and 8 of them answered a question one way, that's gonna be 80%. Whereas if you've got 50 people in another one and 8 of them it's gonna be a smaller percent. Right? Okay. This one's yours, and then mine's flexible.
Okay, got it. So we have the Theological Perspective Index, and is a measure of the degree to which members of the congregation hold more conservative or progressive views regarding such issues as the nature of Scripture, the role of conversion in social change, and their relationship to the historic declarations of the Church. Unlike the other indices, such as hospitality or morale, the value of the Theological Perspective Index varies from leader to leader. Some pastors may want to see the index increased. Others may feel personal growth requires it decrease. Each church will be able to have prayerful consideration on how they feel led in development in the theological climate of the congregation. So the question text was, converting persons to Christ must be the first step in creating a better society. Second question, our congregation is committed to abide by the unchanging historic faith as handed down through the centuries. Number 3, the Scripture is literal word of God without error, not only in matters of faith, but also in historical, geographical, and other secular matters. And the last one, the main purpose of the Christian education is to help people know what is in the Bible. So here are the number of things about from strongly disagree to agree, and where people fell on that site. So the first question was in the from strongly disagree 4.5, tend to disagree was 27.3, tend to agree 21.6, agree 17, and strongly agree is 13.6. So you can see there's quite a variety in a lot of tend to's, a lot sort of again in the middle in some cases. So that's what we find go on that.
Okay. Big thing on this is that when they talk about conservative and progressive, she said, didn't have to use to say this, but we're talking theologically, not politically, and not socially. And so that you've got people on the Scripture is a literal word of God without error, not only in matters of faith, but also in historical, geographical, and other secular matters. And that's the third one. And so if you'll see the third one here, we've got 20% that disagree, but we've got 6.8% that strongly agree, and 10.2% that agree, and 15.9% that tend to agree. We are largely progressive. You'll see it on the chart in a minute that we're largely progressive in this parish, but we've got a very strong conservative segment too. So this is going to be a big piece for us as we look for a new rector. We need to have someone who can speak to us progressively, but also speak to us conservatively and understand and minister to that conservative segment of our parish as well. And I think that's a big piece that we need to pay attention to. Okay, the flexible index. This is really interesting because flexibility is how much we like change, how well we manage handle change. We don't like it very much around here. Our members welcome change in worship. We've got from 7.5% disagree to 1.3 that agree. We don't like to change. If you look at us here, we're much more settled. This is where we stand as compared to other parishes. Our church tends to stay very close to established ways of doing things. Again, we're pretty strong on that. We're Episcopalians. We have a set way of doing worship. What we forget is that there's a right three in there too, which gives you a very lot of latitude into how you've got a structure, but then you can change worship up a lot and make it a whole lot different than just a strict right one or right two. We're willing to adapt our worship to the needs and circumstances of the people we want to reach in our local community. The Episcopal Church is a very focused, not everybody's looking for a liturgical church. Not everybody wants that style of worship. And I'm not really sure that we can change our worship up enough to appeal to non-liturgical people, but that's what I think they're talking about. Our church changes its program from time to time to meet the changing needs of its members. If you know, remember we tried last summer to go to one service, and that was, we did a survey after that to find out how that went over with the parish. It did not go over real well. Some people liked it, but a lot of people didn't like it. So we are not good with change. This is my favorite. Basically, we're looking for an innovative pastor with a fresh vision who will inspire our church to remain exactly the same. Okay, this is going to tell us where is this mine or yours? Yes, this is mine. This is telling us where we go between the progressive and flexibility. And we are down here, what we're calling the paraclete. See how far down we are with settled? We are just really settled. But we're on this progressive side. We're close to the hearth and home. The hearth and home is the conservative. These are people who believe the literal, the scripture is literal, historically, and in every way. And then people over here are going to be more, this is people who are learning about God and how they respond to Him. So we're way down here, and I don't know whether we're ever not going to want to be settled, but if we want to do any of those changes that we say are important to us, bringing in new people, bringing in families with young children, we're going to have to be a little less settled, or else we're going to have to recognize that we're not going to be able to do the things that we say we want to do.
Or maybe look at changes, what I call on the margins. Let me give you an example. We may all have a high percentage of us that don't want to change the way we worship. But one of the things about Episcopalians that I believe is not well known in the community is that we are very accepting of different opinions, different approaches. We're all on a separate journey that we come together and are mutually supportive about. A lot of other Christian denominations are going to want to say, no, that's wrong. You have to be just like this.
Yeah.
If we were better known in the community about just about that, I think our image would change.
But there are a lot of people who are not going to like that. I've always said people love it, that I accept them and love them the way they are, but when they find out I love and accept that person over there just the same, and they don't like that person, that's different. When you can say, I'm loving you, and we'll talk, I'm sure we're going to talk about this later, but one of the things she said to us is that with our great diversity, we have an opportunity in this world today with our great divisions. If we can do this right, if we can figure out how to have all these different visions and be loved and cared for in the same way, we will be doing fantastic stuff. She said it much better than I just did, but it's an important piece that because of our diversity, it's going to cause some conflict, it's going to cause some friction, but it's also a way that we can grow and be more Christian.
Right. We need to talk about this more, Tony. I feel like because the people I talk to in the community they like that diversity.
Yeah.
They like an accepting religion, and we are that.
Yeah.
Or we can fit that mold really, really well. Again, a lot of other Christian denominations are not nearly as accepting. And yet you see it another way, so we got to talk about that.
We had a I don't know if any of y'all noticed, they had a visitor last week who was sitting in front of me, and I introduced myself to her after the service, and she said she was a former Roman Catholic and she was divorced, and so she had come to find acceptance in the Episcopal Church. Okay, this tells you what a paraclete. These are their strong points. Develop communities that are intellectually open and reflective, but they pay attention to structure and ritual. Common to hear conversations about hospitality, inclusiveness, and spiritual practice. Comfortable with the unique path each individual must follow, but believe that there are important patterns to spiritual practice. Again, it's inclusivity. Excuse me. Uniquely equipped to focus on ministries of healing, often engaged in frontline work with the community, is warm and hospitable, can be a haven for those in need of healing or recovery. Outreach. Our outreach people are doing phenomenally. Prepares members to deal with the harshness of cultural and political realities of ministry. The Paracletes also have a shadow side, things that they're not so good at. If our missional focus is lost, we may find ourselves going through the motions of set routines rather than finding the deeper meaning. And I don't know about anybody else, but I can get caught in this real easy. Watch the temptation to overcommit to meeting the needs of others to the extent that there is burnout. And that's something I think we need to be very aware of in our parish today. We're a small community, and we've got a small group of people who are it's that way in most churches. It's the 80-20. There's 20% of people do all the work. But our people are carrying a heavy load right now. When you look at what the vestry is doing, you look at what Patty Boer is doing, I mean, we're risking overload with our people. So we need to be aware of that, make sure we take care of each other.
The person who was our senior warden during our last rector search has dialed down his participation in this parish heavily because of burnout.
Yeah.
You need to be aware of that.
I don't want to get into that now, but looking at our parish then and looking at our parish now, we're a very different parish.
I agree.
May get trapped in the acceptance of where people are without adequate levels of accountability that can help make people whole. Enabling. And if you have anybody in your family that has addiction problems, that's the kind of thing that you struggle with, is whether you're enabling their weaknesses. The power of the gospel to transform may remain a focus, not just the power to comfort. And I always love the word comfort. I learned at some point in my life that comfort in the Bible was roughly akin to prodding someone with a cattle prod. And it wasn't this, oh, you nice, sweet baby. It was urging people forward. How are we doing? Oh, that's yours, but here, on the online, 30 people online attend a few times a year. 4 attend every week, and 6 once a month. 43% believe that we should continue. So on the online worship, that was the statistics that we got from that. Okay, your turn.
9 people.
I'm sorry?
43% was everybody.
That's live.
Oh, that was
That's live.
everybody, just
Of
not.
live, of
Okay.
all of our people.
Yeah, because it's there if we're not here, it's there if we're sick, it's there, we don't feel like we're.
My husband is going to watch today,
Yes.
Yes.
because he does,
Right, okay.
at any rate, go ahead, how are we doing?
So
That's just scout guide.
So that's the sample benchmarking. So this is the part of the performance indices. The hospitality index seeks to measure the degree to which members perceive that the congregation is engaged in offering themselves and their resources to folks who are new, different, or in need. Persons generally expect that churches will be inviting and supportive of communities. However, church communities have decidedly different temperatures to those who enter those buildings. Some churches feel very cold, others feel warm. It can be very difficult for members to gauge this accurately, since some may already have a network of relationships that others do not. If the scores and its indices are low, it's important to give it a priority. So we have a number of things that are somewhat low, number 2 and number 5, and those are being a part of this church community has given new meaning to my life. And number five was members in our church have been prepared to personally welcome guests in worship services. So that's very interesting. In my travels, I'm sure you've all traveled to other churches, and we walk in and nobody says hello. You barely get greeted the sign of the peace, if it at all. So that's a thing that we have an opportunity to work on.
And we do need to work on it. Like I said, last Sunday there was a woman in front of me. I introduced myself and talked to her a bit. I didn't see anyone else in the church even notice. Everybody went to their friends. We've got a concerted effort. We have got to make a concerted effort. Look at who's sitting around you. If it's somebody you don't recognize, and I got to tell you, I introduced myself to people 47 times. I was like, "Hi, I'm Tony Nello." Yes, you introduced yourself last week. I'd rather do that than not pay attention to them. And this is a piece that we really need to work on. Yes.
The story is going through my head. About a year ago, I saw a lady I didn't recognize, and after church, I just went over and said, "Hello, I'm so-and-so, and blah, blah, blah." She's still here, and she told me weeks later that I was the first person in church that had talked to her.
Yeah.
So, that's
We
very
don't think
important.
about it. We
Very
don't
important.
think about it. And it needs to be foremost in our mind. There's a program called Welcome Connect. What is that called? It's a greeting. It's a 3-part thing. It came out of the Diocese of Texas, and our diocese trains in it periodically. But it teaches us how to invite, welcome, connect. Invite, welcome, connect. So, but that welcome, we're not really good at inviting, but my gosh, we can be good at welcoming. So that's one of those pieces I think we need to be working on as we wait. We don't need to be doing nothing while we wait to see if we get a new rector. It's
Neil,
not hard to invite.
What's the highest one, please?
The highest one is number 3, which happens to be a friendly atmosphere prevails among the members of this church. And I think that's, as a reasonable newcomer.
Within our
We're
membership.
good. We're
In the
good.
membership,
If we know
we are-
people we're friends with, we're good.
When you see the large things coming together and all the people here, that's one of the things that Jim and I looked at and said, God, they're, families with the kids and people who are our age and perhaps a little beyond, and everybody, it's very cohesive here. That's the thing.
Yeah, and we're a church that's got a lot of people that have been here for 4 generations and a lot of families. So we tend to have this core group, but we've incorporated people from new people, but we need to keep doing that. We need to keep making people feel welcome.
We have about 10 minutes left.
Ooh,
So,
yeah.
I'm just going to quickly say that as Episcopalians, when we enter the church proper, we are quiet in preparation for
Yes.
services, and a lot of outsiders don't realize that. So our first contact is actually passing the peace, and if they don't leave immediately, which a lot of people do when they're new, we don't really have the opportunity to
Yeah.
chat.
Well, two things on this, and I know you don't have really time for this, but one is, it was really low on ushers, but the ushers can't be greeters, and we need to have greeters. If you've got somebody new that comes to the parish, being able to take them and sit them with someone else and say, this is Mary Jones, and then you get that connection there. But having people that's their ministry, is greeting and welcoming newcomers. But that's, yes,
Tony, one thing I'd like to see come back that we've done in the past is, and I've seen at other churches that we visited out of town, is a coffee cup with their church on it or something.
Yeah.
We did jam at one time. I think
it
that's a
did
great way to, so
strawberry jelly one time, didn't we?
Yeah,
Somebody
jam.
made.
that'd be a great
Yeah.
way to motivate
Yeah,
that.
we've talked about that, but there again, if you've got somebody for whom that's a ministry, and we can give them something that gives them information, I say, oh, come back Wednesday night, you get to meet people and that sort of thing.
We
Okay.
used to have a visitor bag.
I'm sorry?
We used to have a visitor bag.
Yes.
That had a coffee cup, a notepad, a pen, chocolates or something like that in it, and it was at the front door. People
Yeah.
just were handing them right.
That makes a big difference, that makes a big difference. And contact, if you get people's contact information, and that's the one thing after I realized it hadn't done.
Yeah, what we need to do is, because from my own experience, the first time I came to this church, someone approached me to, welcome me. But then I could tell they went down this checklist of questions they should ask me. So I felt like I was being interrogated.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and then when they finished with the last one, well, they were glad I was there today, and they walked away to a group of friends, and then they're all standing there talking and
They didn't
and
introduce
there I am,
Yeah.
didn't take me along or anything.
That's the kind of
So-
thing,
so
we don't know how to do this stuff.
yeah,
And
they
so we
need to have that
need to
training.
be taught, we need to have people who are serious and concerted with doing that work. Okay, we've got,
About 7
actually
minutes.
5 minutes
5
left
minutes.
now.
Frankie's
trying to
been over there
determine what
waving her hand.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh,
I was
I'm sorry,
gonna say
Frankie.
quickly that a few years ago, a group of us, when I was in the vestry, we had a group picture made of all the clergy representation, all the people in the church, and it was placed in the pews. Is this still being done? I haven't looked. I'm sorry, I
It's
can't. And it was contact information, which was very, very good. And if it's not, it needs to be reinstated. This is
Okay,
one
I will
very-
tell you very quickly, because this is something we're gonna have to really teach people about. But we've changed our software in the church to a program called Realm, and they have we can join, we have an app for your phone where you can get the directory, so that you can contact people, we can upload your photographs and be able to keep the contact. If you're in a group, a ministry, you can kind of communicate that way and keep up with stuff. It's a really cool program. We'll be getting to that. Their indices of morale, our morale is fairly good, it's kind of in the middle of the road. Our conflict management index, our results show that we have a good bit of conflict in this parish. And one of the things we talked about a lot in the Zoom was COVID and how much conflict that created. And she said, yeah, but I think there's something else going on here too. And I don't know what it is. I think that's something we need to look at. We're really good at putting on a pretty face and being nice and not recognizing or even talking about or addressing that conflict. So that's something that we're going to want to look for. But there's a disturbing amount of conflict in our congregation. We score really high compared to other parishes. Governance, basically what they found in this was that we're not real comfortable with how decisions are being made and with what our leaders are doing, that they're not telling us well enough what they're doing. And as somebody who works on the communications team, that's a real big focus of ours, is to try and make sure that everybody gets that information. It's just not getting out in a way that people are assimilating it, and we need to work on that. Spiritual vitality, again, we're pretty good on that when you look at compared to other churches. This is like my spiritual experiences often impact the way I look at life, that kind of thing, where we are in our spiritual lives. I'm not even keeping track of who should be doing this.
That's okay. We have just a few minutes.
Yeah, I know. I
A
just
couple
want to
more
try and
things.
go
I think
through
we're
it as
gonna
much as I can.
put it on ice.
Readiness for ministry. Do we understand that we are called to ministry? By virtue of our baptism, we are ministers. And what we do is ministry. I was talking to somebody the other day, I said, I get so upset when we keep talking about getting volunteers for stuff. No, you're being called to ministry. And if that means going and helping Sarah sort through printing out the bulletins or whatever it is, that's ministry. Whatever we do is ministry. And so I think we're not doing a good job of teaching people what it means to do ministry. Educational engagement, we score pretty well, middle of the road there. Are we happy with what we're getting educationally? Is it provided to us in ways in which we can take part? People's lives are busy. They can't always do things on Sunday morning or Wednesday night or whatever else. So we seem to be doing a fair job on that. Worship and music, again, we're doing a pretty good job on that. Finances, abysmal. We are giving, on an average, 1.83% of our household income is our giving. And I mean, the biblical tithe is 10%, so those people who believe that the Bible is, and without error, I'm not seeing their 10% in here. The Episcopal Church a few years back came out and said 5% was a tithe, would be considered a tithe. So I think we're not doing a real good job of stewardship. Stewardship, a steward is someone who cares for something that belongs to somebody else. We are stewards. God gave us everything. God gave us who we are. He gave us our talents. He gave us everything. And we're asked to give back a portion of that based on that, not to meet the budget. And so we need to do a better job of teaching what stewardship is. Not just the budget's a reality, and I worked for the church for a long time, and my livelihood depended on whether people met the budget. But that's not what stewardship is. Am I making sense? This is our demographic data. You can look that up. It's just my eyes roll in the back of my head. This is how long people have been here and what households are made up of. Again, this is our most recent membership. We have lost a tremendous number of people, and most of that is attributed to cleaning out the database. We went and purged people that died or haven't been moved away or whatever. But we do need to look at we have lost some members for other reasons. The community population trend is growing, and I don't know if any of y'all saw that article in the paper a while back, that Plant City is growing faster than any place else in Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country. So we're looking at a large influx of new people into this community. The income within 1 mile of the church has increased at a slower rate than the larger community over the last 3 years. So this neighborhood is not gentrified, it's not getting more wealthy. Then we get into the transition profile, what we're looking for in a new priest. And we have online, there's a transition summary. It talks about what we need to do and what we're looking for. But you want to do this? I'm looking to see that this is not.
It does an awful lot of stuff. I think.
Yeah, there's a place on here that's got, here are the critical abilities for the next pastor. And number 1, we've got preaching. That's the top thing we want. Strategic leadership is next. Change management, somebody who knows how to make change. We can change, just have to know how to do it and how to bring people on board. You don't just come down from on high and say, this is what we're going to do. You have to have those skills. Teaching and training, here again, this is training people to be greeters and getting people on board with that. Teaching people how to do leadership. Leadership training is one of the big things we need to be working on. Pastoral care, negotiate and resolve conflict. We need to have somebody who's good with conflict management. Administration and community catalyst. So that's that outreach in the community. And then they just go on here to tell where those things go for other churches, other churches. You wanna do
Yeah,
that?
so, the transition work starts building strong leadership and trusting in that leadership. And what is it we are currently longing for in our worship? And how can we be better at embracing the change in small, incremental times? Anxiety around change is best handled by, number one, helping people feel invested. Communication and transparency, celebrating accomplishments, sharing the good work of the congregation. Remember how change has happened and how we have navigated it. And who is our next good fit? Someone who can speak for a theologically progressive congregation, but someone who can help to continue to sharpen conflict management skills and foster safe spaces for hard conversations, someone who can help create strong leadership, ministry, and pathways, and has the experience in helping congregations to be open to adaptive change, being open to try new solutions.
Okay, and that top one, someone who can speak for theologically progressive congregation, but also address the needs of our strong conservative part of the community. And that's a big thing. I think that's one of the things that we kind of had a problem with this last time, is that we were looking for someone progressive, and without taking into account that we were not all progressive.
There's that. By
That's
wisdom, a house is built, and through understanding, it is established. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. And that's Proverbs.
Amen.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for being part of
I
this.
didn't think we were gonna get through all that. I hope we presented something that made some sense. It was helpful. Do you have any questions?
Many questions.
Many, yeah. I think the biggest thing is that we don't, let's not just leave this. We've got to assimilate this into our
Take it home and
being
digest it.
and work on it and do this work as we're preparing, and then once we get a director. This is not.
Yeah, not a 3-minute thing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.